everybody. This is Jess from 3D Learning Experts, and you're listening to the LD Experts Podcast, the show for busy parents who want to help their kids with learning disabilities, or as I like to say, learning differences, go from surviving to thriving. Hello, everybody. Today we are continuing with our series of interviewing universities and colleges that specialize in helping students who are neurodiverse. And today we have Mary Beth, who is joining us from the University of Arizona, the SALT Center. And welcome, Mary Beth.
Thank you. Hello, everyone.
So, Mary Beth, first, can you start by telling us what the SALT Center, why is it called that?
Yeah, the SALT Center stands for Strategic Alternative Learning Techniques, and it was originally started in 1981 with like 3 students at the University of Arizona, and then expanded and went from one small little part of campus to another until we had our own building, which is a really beautiful building, just recently renovated too. And we serve, I think, somewhere between 600 and 700 students are enrolled currently in our center, and they're all fully admitted, enrolled students in the University of Arizona. And we provide a set of comprehensive services that, and the main core component is that each student is assigned a learning specialist, and this learning specialist meets with the student weekly and follows them throughout their stay at the university and helps them with everything from time management, organization, study strategies, helping them coordinate their tutoring, and also really a very important piece, transitioning to a large university from a high school environment. And it's a really big step, and sometimes students aren't quite prepared for it. And this learning specialist can really help them navigate the university's resources and navigate the SALT Center's resources, because we do have quite a lot. The learning specialist is the main compass for the student, but then we have a lot of tutoring. We have individual content tutoring. We try to match every class, and we definitely are really able to do that at the lower level with the gen eds. And then we have writing tutoring, math and science tutoring. We have drop-ins for writing labs, for our math labs. And we do also have some psychological services support as well.
So the students are all in regular classes with all of the rest of the student population, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
And so I'm thinking about my youngest son, who has never been the best student, has never really enjoyed going to school. I ended up homeschooling him, and he still didn't enjoy the academic aspect of homeschooling. For someone like that, are they going to thrive in the university setting with the assistance of the SALT program, or should it really be someone who really wants to do school?
It really helps if the student wants to do school, and it be invested in some learning, have a curiosity about different subjects, because the reality is that the subjects are really challenging, and it takes a lot of dedication to work through them. And so having some interest in learning about the world, learning about history, sometimes students are thinking that when they go from high school to college, that suddenly they'll be able to just take business courses and not learn about society, psychology, history, and take all the gen eds that really round out their education. So they do need to be prepared for that and have some desire to learn, which will help carry them through those challenges. And I think one of the key, in all the students that I've worked with, one of the keys is being receptive to coaching, being ready to accept help. And that comes at different levels. Sometimes a student comes as a freshman entering in kind of thinking they've got it all. And sometimes it takes some bumps before they realize, hey, yeah, I need to reach out. I need to talk to my learning specialist. And if they make that contact, if they maintain that regular contact with their learning specialist and trust them, it makes a big, huge difference in how well they thrive at the university. And, the university is a very exciting place to be. There's so many clubs and, we have a lot of students involved in extracurricular sports and sometimes Greek life and things like that, but it also can be very distracting. And so it really helps to have someone assisting you, like their learning specialist, assisting you in time management and organization, and then working with the tutors. I really tell a lot of our students that if they come to our center, even if they come and sit down and study there, it's going to make a big difference because it's such a work environment. It's a beautiful space, for one thing. It just really is absolutely beautiful. And there's lots of, comfortable furniture, modular furniture for the students to sit and study. And if they're seeing other students study, it kind of rubs off. It kind of builds that library environment, except for it's a very, it's our space, which makes it a little bit more of like our own community, and the students feel very safe there and very welcome there. And the other thing is working with the tutors. Sometimes the students wait until they need help and then they don't think they need help. But I find that if the student realizes that the tutor is a collaborator in their success, that they can even teach the tutor. They can reverse the roles. They can come in and work with the tutor, and it helps them focus. It helps them engage in the subject. It makes it more interesting. It makes it come alive. And so I find that the students who are willing to meet with their learning specialists, go and use the tutors, those are the students that really take off. And they grow. They really grow.
That is amazing information. And I know when I went to college, it was definitely an adjustment for me to focus on doing my academic work and balance the freedom that I had being out on my own, far from my family, and not having to be told I needed to go to bed by a certain time. Mm-hmm. So that's great help, the support that they have. And like you said, it really is beneficial to be in an environment with people who may be struggling as well, and knowing that they're having to work extra hard to achieve the goals that they desire.
Yeah, we have some peer mentors too that students can talk to that are available in our lounge at different hours for the students to relate to and get kind of their own tips and advice from them.
That's great. So what about the application process? What does that look like for a neurodiverse individual?
So I don't know as much about that, but I know that we have an online application, and it's kind of worked into the online application to the University of Arizona, so that there's a point in that process where students can say, yes, I'm applying to the SALT Center as well, and then apply. But we have a lot of information on our website, and also our admissions committee is always willing to talk to parents, and we have a couple of tour type programs where if somebody comes, you can schedule a day where you come in and you get a tour. You're also signing up for a tour at the U of A, but you sign up for a tour at the SALT Center too. And you come in and you learn about the SALT Center, and you get to see what it's like to be in that building and where the resources are.
And so do they need to have good grades in order to be able to be accepted into the SALT Center and U of A? So
if a student is accepted into the University of Arizona, then they can be accepted into our program. So the admissions, the requirements of the U of A are that first threshold that they must meet. Mm-hmm. And then for us, it's really about expressing a need. It's a very simple, straightforward process. I think there might be an essay or questions, but very simple and very short, about learning challenges, about what you would need the center for. In some cases, not in all cases, but the admissions team will follow up with request an interview with a student and family if we think that there might be some greater need, so that we can make sure that they're ready for the university environment and ready to use the services, because we certainly want it to be the student's decision and not just the parents. I used to work as a learning specialist, working one-on-one with the students, and sometimes if a student isn't ready, it can be really a difficult thing to be in such a large environment. And, and the reality is that sometimes the circumstances in college can hit a young person really hard. And it's really difficult to see a student kind of break down under those circumstances, because they might have already been facing a lot of psychological challenges. And so it's really important that the student is ready and that they really want this.
Well, and that was one of my big questions when looking at the college for my son, who does not want to take all of the classes. He wants to be a pastry chef. So he's not interested in taking history classes. So based on listening to everything you're saying, this would not be appropriate for my son, because he's not going to be interested in, the whole college experience. But so someone who is ready and driven for that, they would go through the application process. They need to have the good enough grades to be able to qualify for college. Do you know if they need to take the SATs or ACTs in order to?
I believe it's been the SATs for the longest time, but I'm not sure what the most current changes have been. There may have been some changes, especially, right after 2020. My greater forte is educational technology. And I work one-on-one with students, helping them with text-to-speech apps, speech-to-text apps, note-taking, which really students of all different kinds of challenges would really benefit from the note-taking apps. What's out there is just phenomenal, and then mind mapping apps, research citation apps, and using the technology in our center. And I also hold these workshops at the beginning of the semester, and I try to get all the students to attend that are incoming students, because it's such a digital world. College is really different than when you and I attended, and there's so much online that they have to keep track of. And so one of the things I do in the workshop is start them out with first setting up folders for their courses on their laptop. And as simple as that sounds, most students don't do it unless they're guided to do it. And then I help them learn we use something called D2L, which stands for Desire to Learn. It's an online learning platform used by almost all professors at the U of A. It has course material, course content. It's a place where they upload assignments, a place where they can look at their grades, a place where they might take quizzes online. So this platform is very crucial to most courses. And so I help kind of introduce them to some of the little things that they may not realize about D2L that will help them. I even changed like a download setting in their internet browser so that they can now download their material, not to just to downloads like is the automatic default, but to their course folder. It puts them in control. I like putting them in control over where their downloads are going. And once they start getting that kind of productive workflow, things are just much more easier to manage. But most students, their default themselves is to kind of, I'll just go on D2L and look at the course material and not download it and engage in it and interact with it and annotate it and do all the things that they really need to do to be able to understand the concepts.
That's great. And so are student course materials and textbooks available in audio for students who have dyslexia and reading is a challenge?
So that's an excellent question. So one thing I should mention is that there's a disability resource center that students should get in touch with if they go to go to enroll in the University of Arizona and they have a need such as like dyslexia. We don't require documentation, but the Disability Resource Center does. But that's what's going to provide the legally required accommodations that the University of Arizona is obligated to provide to the student. accommodations such as extended time on test, note taking, but note taking usually is in the form of the apps. Sometimes the DRC will customize the accommodations to the student, but a lot of times students don't get this exact same kind of accommodations that they might have had in high school. So for example, if they had an accommodation for only 10 vocabulary words out of 20, that's a modified curriculum, and they're not. I've never seen that as an accommodation. But generally, note taking and e-text accommodation and the extended time is generally what I see with different students. And so for the e-text accommodation, first of all, a lot of textbooks are accessible now, one way or another. There's a way to make them accessible, but some learning platforms are better than others. So for example, a student might have an online textbook and I'm showing them how to read it, and I get this robotic voice, this archaic old voice from 2000, when I know what the voices sound like in 2023. And so sometimes I'm able to switch that voice, or sometimes I might put them in touch with the DRC to get another alternative format for that textbook, such as if they can get a PDF from the publishing company, then we can use our other tools to read that documentation. And so the university, through the DRC, has a campus license to read and write by TextHelp, which is a very robust text-to-speech software. It does everything from read PDFs, read Word docs, and it will also, and it uses a really good voice. It highlights, it tracks, and you can convert it to an MP3, and you can even highlight things and then pull those highlights out, like extract them and dump them onto another document. So it's a really powerful tool for accessibility. And then
you show the students how to use these tools.
Yes, because it seems like only a few students sometimes know about these tools or the best ones. Sometimes they do have their own personal favorite, but I also work with a lot of students that never use text-to-speech at all. They skated by, they might have had a reading challenge that they were aware of or not aware of, but when they get hit by the large amount of reading in college, they're suddenly like they want to shut down. And so I help them see how they can read the material. And recently, the DRC had Learning Ally, or Blackboard Ally, I should say, Blackboard Ally integrated into our D2L system. So if a professor is providing a PDF, usually we can click on this alternative format and have it either read downloaded as a good PDF that can be read by the read and write software, or sometimes even better yet, Microsoft Immersive Reader, which I love. I don't know if you've tried it, but the voice is the best that's out there. Very human sounding, and you have these really different colored overlays. You can change the font. You get rid of any other garbage that's on there, because you can also read the web with this. It's just a fantastic tool. I'm a really big fan of Microsoft Immersive Reader, just because it has this really great voice. And if it's used to read the web on Microsoft Edge, you even have choices of all sorts of different accents, and it's just really good.
Well, see, I listen via Google Translate, which drives my husband crazy. He's like, how do you listen to that voice? And it doesn't bother me at all. But obviously for him, who is also dyslexic, it bothers him. So that's more important to a lot of people than it is to me.
Yeah.
So do you happen to have any of these resources available, written down, that I could share with my listeners?
Well, for one, the website, the educational technology section of the SALT Center website does have a lot of these technologies mentioned. And I can take a look later and see if there's some more things I can provide.
because people are always asking for technology information. And I've got to be honest, I'm not very technological. I had purchased some different technology for my kids when they were kids, and I don't read instructions. So they sat in the box for many years. And then when my kids all grew up, I just donated them. And, we never, ever attempted to use a lot of the technology that we purchased. Nowadays, everything's available on apps. You don't even have to purchase a lot of things. But.
Yeah, and what's available is just amazing. And like we have that software that's available through our campus license. Microsoft Immersive Reader is available too through that integration, as well as through Microsoft Word Online. The university provides a campus license to Microsoft 365. And another fantastic tool that comes with that's hidden and that most people aren't aware of is Microsoft Word Online, not the desktop version, but the online version has a transcription feature. So not just dictate, but transcription. So if you were in a lecture hall and you wanted a transcription and an audio recording of the entire lecture, you can use Microsoft Word Online to do that.
Wow.
That's great. And there's another really great app that does it too, Otter AI, but it has like the free version and then there's the premium version. So just depending upon where that price point is for someone.
Yeah, we use Otter AI within my company to transcribe recordings that we do. So
yeah, it's amazingly accurate. I mean, it's more accurate than I am. I my notes look like scribbles and doodles. So
well, my name is often spelled very a variety of ways because it doesn't know how to pick up my last name, Arce. But yeah, it is quite accurate, and there's not very many things that need to be adjusted on it. So, and yeah, I think we have the free version. So
yeah, and then the note-taking tools that I recommend the transcription for certain situations or as a backup. Sometimes students like to write in their notes by hand, but they're still missing things. And I say you can still use this as just a backup, just to see what you missed. But the tools that I recommend the most are either Microsoft OneNote or Notability. And for a couple of reasons. One, you can import the lecture slides into your own notes. And that's important because you should have a visual aid and you should be able to type or write or on the note, on the slides or next to them to be able to integrate what's being said in the lecture, your own understanding of it with the information that's on the slides. And then the other thing is that you can record audio, and unlike just like a tape recorder where you have to kind of jump and guess where certain parts are, if you're following along and trying to write keywords, you can go back and then click on your note and hear that moment play back in time. And then it allows you to fill in what you missed.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
So those note-taking tools to me are by far the best because it helps the student, especially the student with ADHD who's, lost focus. They can go back and review, and reviewing is a good thing to do anyway, that, it needs to become a developed habit. But then they can fill in what they missed and they have it integrated with the visual material as well. And then they can play it back as many times as they need to. So if a student has an auditory processing challenge, then hearing that back and repeated is going to help them understand it. And they could also play parts back for a tutor and say, this part, I'm just not getting, can you help me understand this?
And they can slow it down as well if the auditory processing is that they need to hear information slower.
Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's just the tools out there now are just incredible.
Well, thank you so much for this information. Are there any final words of advice you have for parents of neurodiverse kids looking at college or for the students themselves?
I think my greatest advice would be to start preparing a high school student that was planning to go to college for independence, and to not wait until the last minute to suddenly ship them across the country to take charge of everything themselves. That there should be a gradual transition starting from freshman year, maybe something kind of planned out, so that by the time they're a senior, they're even non-academic stuff like doing their own laundry, but also really starting to put themselves in charge of their own time management, because time management is one of the biggest pieces. A student, when they come to the U of A, they suddenly have to become their own executive assistant. And really, in some respects, the student in our center has a bigger burden because they also do have to schedule their tutors. We have so many tutors. They're really in charge of their schedule, but they have to put it on their calendar, and then they have to set up the reminders, and they have to, plan what they're doing so that they're not doing something else at the time they need to be going to the tutoring. And being digitally organized and having good time management skills is going to be kind of that main, core that's going to help them then focus on the challenges of the content itself.
Well, that is excellent advice. Having raised 4 children, it definitely takes time, especially with our neurodiverse children, for them to learn the skills. And do you have students who are older than your average college student, or are they all pretty much 18 when they start?
Occasionally we do, but for the most part, they're all between 18 and 22 or 18 and 23.
Okay.
Some students will take longer to get through. And I know that obviously finances can be the challenge to how quickly you want to get through school. But I also know that if a student can take their time, it's better to have a more manageable load than trying to push hard for that 15 units every semester, when maybe they could take 12 that first semester and really adjust to the college, and then take some in summer school later.
That's great advice.
Yeah, manageable loads.
Yeah. Great.
And the other thing is to try to really prepare for math, because math is definitely one of those challenges for students. And so, sometimes a senior will take math off, and of course, students have been affected by having to take math on Zoom and things like that. But but if they can be consistent in preparing for math, not taking math off their senior year, they'll be better off for it, because they still have to take some math in some majors more than others, but it just depends.
Absolutely. Yeah. Math was definitely my hardest subject in college, and it wasn't in high school. So
yeah. I can relate to that.
Thank you so much, Mary Beth, for all of your great information and insight into U of A's SALT program. And we will include information on how to reach out to the school. And I guess they apply first and then check that they're interested in the SALT program. So that,
and they certainly can communicate to the SALT Center before that.
Awesome.
And inquire. And thank you very much for having me. This has been a great opportunity to speak about what I love. I obviously love it. I've been there since 2004.
Oh, wow. Yes, that is a long time. Well, thank you again.
Well, thank you again.